All right, welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, a show about good friends hanging out, talking about the things we all love. You guys all know my co-host Andrew Sides, who might jump from this side to that side in the middle of this call.
No,
And
it should be okay. I did all my stuff beforehand.
Sure.
We'll
And
see.
our guest today is Halloran Parry, right? How
Yes,
you been, Halloran? It's
that's
been a
me.
minute.
It has.
We haven't hung out in like is it 9 years, 8 years?
Is it really?
I don't know. Whenever Jeff's first workshop was, that's where we met, right? For the first time.
Yeah.
And
Are
the
you
last time,
guys local
apparently.
to each other or no?
No. I forget where you live actually.
I live in California, in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Dang.
Yep.
That must be nice.
It's cute. Like I live in a little cottage with a white picket fence, and the beach is like 2 blocks that way.
Nice.
And there are spiders everywhere. It's a little island.
Oh, you live on an island?
It's called Alameda. It's like right off the coast of Oakland, in the Bay.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder, I think there's like 2 artists in our group that live there too. Like, I think Michael Manimivable lives there. Maybe?
I don't
Why do you
know.
have so many
Really?
spiders on your island though? That's a good question.
Spider
Because
Island.
it's like 3 miles long. It's really small, and so there's just breeze constantly, and spiders really like it. And so, anything outside, we get covered in
Do
spiders.
are they
That
is it
would
because
freak me
I
out.
was gonna say because of the breeze, are they traveling on the breeze itself? Because I know like some spiders will hitch rides on wind using like a little bit of their web and stuff.
They make little parachutes.
Yeah.
I know. I've heard of this, and it terrifies me. I have not personally witnessed flying spiders.
In the
Doesn't
city, they do
mean they
that all
don't
day.
happen here.
Right.
Yeah, in the city, apparently they travel from high rise to high rise depending on the seasons.
Man.
If you
They
visit
just
that,
move from one building to the other.
yeah,
In
'cause, like,
Chicago?
yeah, in Chicago. Well, apparently, when they clean the windows and stuff, they clean every, those. I
Mhm.
feel not only are you hanging outside of a window in I used to live in a condo on the 53rd floor, and I see these guys hanging out the window, and they didn't have like sometimes they had the um what do you call it, like the automatic
Oh yeah, like the
bridge
cart
that
kind of
lowers
thing.
and goes the
Mhm.
cart, and sometimes they just have like little saddles and they're just hanging off the side. I'm like, are these motherfuckers crazy?
Oh.
And they just like pull it, go down, pull it and go down. They keep cleaning right top to bottom. So on top of that, if they see like spider webs and stuff, they have to like clean it all out, right? So I feel like
Right.
some of these spiders are just like, we're moving to the next building. Like, there goes my house.
Mhm.
And the Hancock building is a good example of giant spider. The higher up you go in these high rises, the bigger they get.
What?
I think it has something to do with the oxygen levels shifting as you go higher, so they get bigger. Because
What?
isn't it?
That
Isn't it
would,
like
if anything, they would get.
they get
Oh
large?
yeah, they would. They would get bigger, I
Yeah.
guess.
Because their bodies can
There's
actually
less
expand.
oxygen up there.
Correct. So they can get bigger, right? Like, I'm not saying they're like gargantuan. It's not like I'm fighting like a kaiju up there. But they're big, man. They're like
I'm assuming.
like
I'm assuming they
half
breathe
dollar
the same
size.
way like insects do, with like vents on the side of their body called spiracles.
That's beats the fuck
And
out of me.
News to me.
so like insects. I'm assuming this is the same thing for like arthropods, like spiders and stuff. Like insects don't breathe in the same way we breathe. They have a passive respiratory system. Like basically,
Right.
imagine like your house with just the windows open, and you're just hoping like a cross breeze comes through to cool your house. That's how an insect body works.
So you're saying the higher up they are, the more wind there is, and so
Well,
they
see
get
that's
more.
the thing that confuses me because like prehistoric insects, the reason they were so large was because the oxygen was the atmosphere was thicker back then.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything was large. Like the
Yeah, so
megafauna. It's a whole.
yeah, so like that was the main reason a lot of insects got to be like super sized was I guess because like the atmospheric pressure was able to allow their bodies to
Correct.
get to that size. But I don't know like how being in a thinner atmosphere would do that to them. Because that seems to be like the antithesis of that.
I never really looked into it. It's just they would always talk about how lower to the ground, these same spiders species would be smaller, and the higher up, because if you go to like the John Hancock, as I was saying, like you go up to like I think it's the 85th or 89th floor where the signature room is, which is gone by the way. But right above it, there's a bar area, like a lounge area. We can like it's like a sky deck and like a bar, and there's like walkways there, and you can see these giant spiders hanging out. And on the Hancock building, these specific spiders migrate from one side of the building to the other every year. Like they like
Oh my goodness.
crawl up the fucking side of it and then
I'm
over and down. I don't know why they do it. It just sounds horrific, but
I'm gonna have to look this up later, but we are not here to talk about spiders. We're here to talk about Halloran.
right.
Whatever, we can talk about spiders. It's basically
I don't.
Halloween.
I prefer
still.
not to actually. I fucking hate spiders. So I
Yeah.
was just curious why you have so many around your house. Because if a bunch of them landed on my house, I'd burn my house down. You know, like
Well, that's the thing. Like, I am not good with spiders, but man, I got a lot better once I
sure,
moved here because,
get
like, I had
desensitized.
to. Um,
So
so
let's
So
move.
like
Let's
acclimate or die.
yeah, exactly. Like we're now they're all neighbors and friends because they live on the same island. Um.
yep,
So yeah. So you had messaged me about earlier about being on jumping on here and talking about starting out as a professional artist in your 40s. And
yeah,
my initial thought was you've been doing art for a lot longer than that, but then you kind of mentioned like like a professional artist, which is a different thing than just being an artist. But also like what happened between that workshop. I know you got married. I know that
it
part.
did.
Um, but I don't know what's been going on with you because I don't the only people I really communicate with still from there really is Melissa because she lives here and Tony because he lives here, and then
So
Miles
what
because I see him at
workshop
shows.
did you
Jeff
guys?
Miracola's first fantasy art workshop, the very first one that he put together
Oh wow,
was
that must have
is it
been
Milwaukee?
Yep, it was
2008 or something like that,
No,
or
it was
it
like
was like 2015, I think.
2015 or
oh
2016.
2015. Okay.
Yeah, and it only
Yeah,
had like it's literally
9
Miles.
people.
Yeah, it's like Miles, Tony, me, Halloran, Melissa. Was Melissa there? No,
Melissa wasn't there.
wasn't it? She was the
Tony's dad
second
was
one.
there.
Yeah, Tony's dad was
Yeah,
there, and then this guy George, who I didn't
George.
really interact
Net.
with because he was weird.
Yeah,
I
and then
didn't think.
Kat, or there was Christina.
Yeah, I can't remember
What's
her
her name?
name. Real tall,
Shay.
skinny Shay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
7 of us really, essentially,
hmm
learning. So I did a Rocketeer. I remember. I still have that Rocketeer. So it was right over there. Um, maybe I'll pull them out later. The last time I touched acrylics. But what
Yeah, I
happened
did like a little
between
robot.
that and like because like Miles went into started doing conventions, Tony went in and started doing
Mhm.
conventions. I was already starting out doing conventions, and we just cooked along.
Yeah, I wasn't. um, yeah, like so. I've always liked drawing. I've always been into art. I've always loved drawing ever since I was yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college for fine art, which ended up being a highly conceptual program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a ton about why you put something in a piece of art, which I think is really important and is hard to pick up. But when I graduated and started looking around, I saw my fellow classmates, like they were moving back in with their folks. They were doing like the hard, scrappy, try to get into galleries, try to make something happen, try to be a barista. And I was like, I am not that person. I
Mm-hmm.
can't, that's just not like, I can't do it. So I got a tech job, and my thought was like, I'll work in tech and pay the bills, like put a 401k together, have benefits while I get the
Mm-hmm.
art career off the ground. And that took a while. And part of the problem was I was shooting for magic, because we all do, right? Like that's a good bar to set. And they tell you, like, all right, first you like identify the property, and then you put the portfolio together to target the property, and then you send it off to art directors, and then like lather, rinse, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And step two like was not coming together for a decade or so. And like looking back, the problem was I just wasn't that good, and so I had no portfolio because I kept starting all these paintings that were supposed to be magic paintings, and they just weren't, and I knew it. And
Sure, you weren't feeling it.
um Yeah, and I didn't have the skills. Like I didn't have the foundational drawing skills and constructive modeling and stuff to really pull that off. I could luck into some paintings, and I did that at Jeff's workshops a couple of times, but there was no consistent delivery, which is pretty important if you're going to go pro. So then then the pandemic happened. I saw a Facebook ad for an illustration class that John Foster was teaching. And I was like, well, it's now or never, right? And I went through the whole visual arts passage curriculum, which is not targeted. Yeah. So like not targeted at sci-fi fantasy, but very focused on image making and like how do you construct an image so that it's visually readable, it grabs people, which was like a whole different awesome set of skills. And that was awesome, but it really drove home that I just needed to practice. So I ended up like working with a mentor, and he's like, all right, you're going to learn how to draw, and now you're going to do studies, and now you're going to do bark plates, and now like we're going to do the whole classical curriculum.
That's tough.
So it's the payoff's really good though. And then a couple months ago I was like, fuck it, I'm going to give myself a month. I'm going to do 4 paintings in a really limited style. And they ended up being targeted at Monster Manual interiors, like single subject, no background, right? That'll just like, that's my gift to myself. I'm going to make a portfolio. Did that. Somebody saw it. Somebody wanted stationery, like Christmas cards with monsters with like a Christmas tree with big teeth. And I was like, cool. So I started doing that, got a week into that. I work at a startup, and funding at a startup is always a little precarious. And I was faced one day with the thought of like, I might have to look for a new job. And then I realized just how much I really didn't want to do that. So I said, screw it. I've got 2 Christmassy things. I'm going to launch a store on Black Friday, and like, we'll see what happens, so that maybe I don't have to find yet another tech job.
So you're taking like the just jumping into the fire approach.
Sometimes that's what you have to do.
Well, I still have my day job, and
right.
you know that looks a little more stable than it did a week ago. But that's kind of the thing, is you know it could disappear at any moment, and I might as well just be prepared.
Your day job is the startup?
Yeah.
What do you study? Software engineering or?
Fine arts and computer science. Yeah.
Computer science. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like Mark Chef.
Yeah.
Had the exact same background. Yeah.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. Computer.
He writes like it.
Computer science first, if I remember right, and then he went back and got a fine art major.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I went the other way. Okay.
Oof.
I mean, I think what you're doing is what you're doing is what you have to do. You have to like roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. Excuse me. At the very least, you still have a day job, like you said, but you gotta take that leap of faith in yourself, man.
Yeah.
So I think is that what I forgot this? What you had? You had a header on your website. Was it? I forgot the header you had. What's your website called again?
Happy Little Nightmares.
Happy Little Nightmares. So I'm assuming you have ideas for multiple things in that theme.
Yeah. I think so I was talking to somebody, this woman who commissioned me, and she was telling me why she liked my work. And she said, there's so much, like the whole world right now is a lot of things that are pretending to be pretty, and they're really ugly and dangerous underneath. And so you can add teeth to like anything and make a monster that speaks to people about the everyday. There's a lot of material to be mined there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the current plan, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, I'm going to be selling stationery, so this is not big bucks immediately, but it's also pretty low risk, and the whole process of starting an online store is a lot more complicated than it was like 5 years ago. So
who are you using for your online store?
I'm doing a Wix website, and it's integrated with Printify because I'm doing print on demand.
Oh, okay.
shipping.
Yeah.
I haven't tried Printify. I'm curious how that works.
It's interesting because you pick your suppliers, right? So,
Okay.
they don't do anything in-house. They find suppliers and they're literally the middleman. But I had to go with them because they were like the only supplier that did multiples of greeting cards. Everybody else wanted to charge me, $2 per card and
Per
sell them
card,
as
yeah.
Oh
singles,
my
and that was
god.
dumb. So it's this really niche problem that I never expected to have.
Yeah.
So printify it is.
Would you ever consider if you do the thing and it takes off? Would you ever consider just holding onto your own stock and doing your own excuse me, shipping?
I think that is definitely where I want to get to, just because the fewer people in my supply chain, the happier I am. I would so
Yeah.
much rather work with a local printer. I would so much rather um, not have like 5 different services that I have to pay fees on between me and an
Correct.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
because you'll keep the
better
lion's share
customer
if you do it
service.
all yourself.
Yeah. Hmm.
Which, yeah, which you don't want to obviously do until you're like, this stuff's definitely gonna move. Otherwise, it's gonna sit in your garage, your
Yep.
spider
Yeah.
infested
Well, not
shed.
yeah, not the garage, but the spare bedroom for me. I've got some
Yeah,
prints hanging around.
dude, I got
Yeah.
700 playmats sitting in my garage right now. Right, 700,
Ooh.
and people are like, that's not that many. It's like
That's a
16
lot.
boxes. Yeah,
But you
it's
also, well, you're at the end of your convention season, and
that's
I'm
what
assuming like
sucks. Yeah.
I'm assuming those will move once the con season starts up again for you, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the conversation yesterday, but like, I got into Fair, which is like a wholesale
No,
market.
I didn't see that at all, but I
So,
saw
so I signed up for Fair.
our
A friend of
friend
ours,
Tia talking about
yeah. So
that.
Tia was talking about that, and then our friend, a friend of ours, gave me a invite to it. So I got into it a while back, and I finally got my store approved. This morning, actually, they approved it. So the idea is it only sells to people who can buy wholesale. So you can't
Right.
go on Fair, and I use Shopify for all my
Mhm.
store stuff, and which it's great. I like it. It's integrated into my Squarespace. But what I like about Fair is now it's integrated into my Shopify as well. So if you see that I have 100 of this playmat sitting in Shopify, and you're like, I want to buy it wholesale. You can't like get
Mhm.
a wholesale. You have to sell it at half off, right? Half of
Right.
MSRP. You can't try to buy like one mat or two mats off me for that
They have to
cost.
buy in bulk.
You have to buy in bulk.
Yeah.
So you have to buy,
Right.
at the very least, you have to buy 25 of those at a time. So in theory, I would, if somebody buys from Fair, you know, I sell my mats at 40, and then they would buy them at $20. I'd probably make around, what was that, $500, assuming they see it on Fair. And Fair, since I'm new, they're pushing it, and then you get like a discount, like you don't have to pay the commission on your first sale or something. But I'm hoping that helps move all these 700 playmats sitting in the garage. I have another probably 500 sitting in storage
Oh
because
man.
there was a whole clusterfuck with
So
con season where stuff, I don't want to get into it, but stuff happened and stuff just was sitting there. It's still
so
product you can sell.
this would just be your hope to move it outside of the convention season.
Yeah, I mean, because like once convention season ends, and I don't, Halloran, do you have any interest in doing conventions at some point?
I consider it.
Okay.
I like it seems like the people who do it really well though do lots. And I don't
I
know if I'm
mean,
that
I
jazzed
don't want to turn
about
I
into
I
like,
get that.
I don't want to do like we all know Dougie Hops, I think is how you say his last name.
yeah.
He does like 47 conventions a year or something. I forget. He might do a lot less now. And there's artists in our group who do like a convention every week, every other week, and I don't want to do that. I only do
Yeah.
like this year I think I did 9, and that was
You've
that was
been
like,
ramping down.
yeah, I've been like going lower and lower each year because I'm just like, that's the goal here with like so I was talking to my friend Mark, and he's done business and sales for years, and one key piece of advice was you always have to have different revenues of income. Like in this case, don't rely on just conventions. So you have, like, I have Shopify set up, I have Fair set up, and um you know um whatever the next thing is, like Instagram or whatever it is, you should have multiple sources of income because one of those is bound to stop or fail at some point, right?
Mhm.
In this case, con season is over for me. I didn't get into PAX in December, so I don't have any other shows to do. How am I bringing money in? Like I still have the bills to pay, right? Um, my wife works too, but she's not paying all the bills. She's not paying the bills for the business. So,
Right.
you know, um,
Yep.
things to consider when you want to run your own business. So,
Yeah.
and you'll get there, and then you'll be like,
Yeah.
why did I think this was a good idea?
Yeah. I know you're focused on the stationery right now, but do you have any ideas of like where you would like to expand from there?
I would love to go into surrealist fine art. I think
Mm.
I hadn't thought about it until like 2 weeks ago when somebody pointed out my work would fit there. And that opens up a whole different buyer's market, right? Because the fantasy sci-fi illustration space is a little like echo chambery and incestuous, and we're all really into games and we're all really into minis and stuff. And I'm learning that there are a whole bunch of people who don't care about any of that and still want some of the imagery, but they're not going to go look.
Right.
Yeah.
So like somebody was saying, "Oh, nobody does pumpkins with like teeth like that." I'm like, Justin Gerard is right over there, and he does them better than me. But she's not going to go look. I mean, she has no
No.
reason to go
Well,
search out,
right. Have you
So
considered doing like it sounds like you need to be in like a gallery show, but have you considered like a LuxCon?
I need to. I would love to. I need to get in
I
a
would do
lot
the
more originals
showcase.
painted up.
You
Yeah,
got time?
I get time. Totally.
I mean, buy a
Yeah, I should
showcase
get on
table
that.
in January when they go on sale, and then you have until October to cook out some originals.
Yeah,
You know who you should talk to is actually Melissa, who
Oh yeah.
Melissa. Yeah, and I'll see her. I'm planning on going to the workshop this year, so I'll see her then. And then Dave Hofrichter, I know, is
yeah,
like he and I talk 3 times a week, so
yeah.
we'll be.
He killed it at LuxCon. He sold
Oh
so
my
many original,
god!
but he's like, no, I don't want it to, like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's a rare thing to see that many originals sell from an artist in the showcase, not the
Mhm.
main show. So I was just like, come on, man, bask in this moment with the rest of us. Like,
Yeah, I gave him some grief about that. I was like, man, you're like, what were you complaining about to me last? Like, this is an amazing show for you. And then his painting since then is just like taken off. He's showing me all this work in progress stuff, and he's leveled up
yeah,
somehow just in the last month. It's crazy. So yeah, he killed it. Like things are
and
going well.
I think if you have a unique enough idea, and that'll definitely stand out. And then like you're saying, you have a very specific thing you're trying to do. So I think you gotta find some galleries or a museum or something. Like
Yeah.
that might not that might not fly as well. You never know. Like you might be able to bring the Dragon Con and it might take off. Like who am I to
Yeah.
say what sells and what doesn't sell, right? So, but Melissa's an idea machine, man. She gave me a bunch.
Mhm.
Like her and I rode into LuxCon from Chicago. We went from here to Ohio and Ohio to like the rest of the way, and like the whole time it was like we were talking just ideas and business and like random life things. But the anytime business came into play, like we would come up with these like cool ideas, and I'd be like, that's pretty good. Like like it's like I think she just sits around coming up with ideas all day. Just a little fucking Tesla.
Well, that's a good question. Have either of you done gallery shows at all?
Yeah, I have. Trying to get more of it as time goes on, but I've done a mix of physical galleries and online galleries, like Everyday Original and Wow by Wow are the two main online ones I've done.
That's a good point
Wow,
too.
I don't know.
You should definitely try out for EDO, man.
Yep.
Just submit, do an
Yeah.
original, like submit it, and then if you get in, then it's doesn't this easy. I'm not gonna say it's easy money,
Yeah.
but it's it's something you don't even have to like go to a show. You just literally
A lot of them are like even EDO is kind of like this, though EDO they have their own specific like November is when they showcase
the
any
newbie
new artists
November.
they get in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most other galleries operate on they'll do an open call for like a group show of some kind, and that's basically your chance to put your stuff in front of them and be like, hey, like can I be part of this group show? And that's kind of how you establish your relationship with the galleries. There was one that I did recently earlier this year, like in August, was a Modern Eden gallery
Yep.
in San Francisco.
Mhm.
For their covers. I think it was their covers group show where it was basically like all square pieces of art that was reimaginings of album covers of music. Like you
Nice.
picked basically your favorite album and then did your own take on like what that might look like. I saw a friend of mine sent me an open call for Arch Enemy Arts in Philly.
Yep.
And yeah, actually I got to meet I got to meet them back in October, and they're really nice. So yeah, I'm hoping like that gets me a little more wedged in, where it's like, hey, look, we've met, and we talked, and you really liked my stuff. But
And
yeah,
what are you showing in the galleries? Is that most of your illustration work, or are you moving toward like a fine art bent, or like
it's
what's
at
the
the moment
strategy?
it's mostly illustration work. 1 second, I'll grab something.
Right.
He's literally sitting in his big ass studio. I
Yeah.
should have put my banner up behind me. I didn't even think about that. I present you the mess, basically.
I
I'm
thought
so
about doing
lazy.
this for my studio, but I don't trust the internet there, so I figured my kitchen.
I used to always clean all this up before every show, but then now I'm just like, this is how I
Yeah,
show up, people.
like this was for there
There
we
you
go.
go.
This was for Wow by
Wow.
Wow. And this was for their Memory Hive show, I believe. So it's a lot of stuff
Okay.
like this where it's just it is kind of like dark art,
Hmm.
semi surrealist or whatever. Some of it can be some of it's a little more fantastical, but like none of it's been an out and out like dragon or anything like that. Like actually
Right.
I was talking with a friend of mine when he came down to visit recently, and we were talking about like, yeah, like I don't really do like dragons or anything like that, and we were talking about like magic kind of thing, because
Hmm.
I personally never had an interest to get into magic or anything like that, so I never really I like pursued it half-assed at the very start of my career, and then I really kind of quickly fell out of favor. I was like, I really
I
don't want to
think
do this. I'm just
that's a
kind of doing
good
this
thing
because
though,
everyone
man.
else is.
I
Huh?
think
Yeah.
you took a lot of pressure off yourself by doing that.
Yeah, yeah. It was, it's that thing that we all do where we kind of you're first going along with everyone else because that's what seems like the right thing. And
Yeah.
just over time, I've gotten more assured in like, no, like that's a cool thing, but that's not my thing. Like this is like my thing
I
over here or
mean,
whatever.
I'll still take a card if someone gives me one, but
And that's
I'm not actively pursuing it.
yeah, that was the thing. Like that was the thing what we came to is like, if they asked me to, I wouldn't say no, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go down
Right.
that route. I'd rather kind of stick with like what I'm doing right now, which is like doing the gallery work, which is helping me like kind of get more personal pieces out anyway, at least giving me like a drive to do it. And then like it's a mix of things. Like so I have that, and then I have freelance, which is mostly like advertising stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like movie, TV posters, that kind of thing. And then my day job, which is like apparel design. So that's like designing t-shirt graphics and stuff. And between the three of them,
Hold on, I'll
I
show the
could
shirt we
say,
designed.
oh yeah,
You keep
I'd
talking.
I
say
didn't
like
realize.
between,
Are you
sorry,
like full time day job,
hmm
or is this? Oh wow,
yeah,
that's a lot.
15 years of doing the apparel design, and then
This is the one
freelance
that
just
Andrew helped me
throughout the
with
years,
for
whatever.
Dragon Con.
Yeah,
Oh,
Like I drew
that's
the thing, and then
amazing.
I was like, I don't know how to make this work on a shirt. And Andrew was like, Yeah, I got you.
I will say it is one thing I've like struggled with is when I compare like my what I consider like my output, which is like the personal paintings and stuff. When I consider the amount of personal paintings I do compared to like my peers that do more illustration stuff as their main thing, I always feel like I'm underperforming kind of deal.
Yeah.
Then that's because I don't factor any of like the advertising stuff or any of like the apparel stuff because most of that I don't show, or if I do show it, it's behind like a password protected thing on my website. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, oh, that's not the real stuff. Even though like, fuck, like this year, I think I've done like 80 to 90 different graphics so far for t-shirts.
Wow.
That's a lot of graphics, man. I was
It-
trying to
it's
see if I can dig out that Rocketeer, but I think it's in the flat file, and I'm definitely not going in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
But yeah, no, yeah, the gallery stuff, I'd like to do more of it. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm very good at being like a style chameleon, where I kind of. Alan knows this about me. Like I tend to flit around and stuff, and you can. I feel like I can kind of do that with gallery work, but there does need to be some kind of unifying thing behind it, and I'm still trying to coalesce that. Whether it's, I don't know if it's so much going to be the subject matter, but it might be more just how I approach making the picture in terms of like technique and process and materials and all that.
Do
So
you
at least
think?
like, oh, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was
Do you,
just finishing my thought.
yeah. So I mean, I know that that's always a concern with galleries, is you want to show like a body of cohesive work. And I mean, it's true of portfolios too, but for galleries, like really. And I'm wondering, do you think
It's
you could get away with doing like 5 in a style and then just shipping them out and saying, "All right, next style, gonna do a different thing"?
it's weird. It's not. It's like not exactly that. Um, Trying to think like the best way to describe it. Okay, like so, because when you're first starting out, like getting into gallery work, there is a part of it where yeah, you do have your own authorial voice, but even still, like they're trying to slot you into their existing thing. They're not saying like, oh, like the gallery show with Halloran or gallery show with Andrew
Yeah.
Sides right now. They're looking at you and saying like, hey, we have this group show coming up. It's this. The theme is this. Can you do something in this theme? And
Yeah.
you kind of have to look at it and be like, okay, is the theme like something that's enjoyable to me? And then the other thing is like, is the gallery even a good fit? Like, I could do a group theme, like a group show for say like a Western art gallery, but is my work compatible with that gallery? And
Yeah.
is that gonna really like are we gonna really mesh? Like I do some Western horror paintings, but I don't think that market necessarily meshes well with with the Western market because they expect a very specific thing.
Right.
And I don't know if like a slice of like Lovecraftian horrors quite that they
I
want to
mean,
have in their like Western stuff.
that's where doing your own thing comes in handy.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like to a point. Like, yeah, like do your own thing, but then it's like the same thing as like illustration work, where you have to find a way to make it marketable. And then I think initially, like where I'm at right now with it, it's less about presenting myself and the entire body of work. It's like this is me. We're gonna market me, and more saying like which gallery does a lot of the things that I like to do and who has the potential clientele that might want to buy my things because they like similar stuff. And so that's been a lot of like what I've been trying to hunt down is like a lot of lowbrow and dark, like specifically galleries that are lowbrow, galleries that are I guess quote unquote dark art, like they advertise themselves as that, or like macabre or something like that. Um because like something like that might work within that kind of field, even though it's not I wouldn't consider it dark art, but it might fit those themes.
Mhm.
Or even in some cases, like some of my paintings, could maybe breach into that like some places. Some places do like pop surrealism. So those seem to be like the 3 or 4 genres that I'm trying to look at for galleries.
That's
Which
a
is
lot.
interesting because then there's like there's a lot of galleries that don't do that. Like there's a lot of local galleries around me. I don't think there's any actual galleries around me that do any of those genres. They all are like tchotchke touristy kind of galleries where it's like boats on ocean, Florida landscapes.
Where are
Uh
you?
He's in
Orlando, Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you at least have like probably some decent galleries around you, even if they're art that you don't like.
Uh
In Florida? I don't know.
Well, the scene
and,
around here is like there's San Francisco, and they've got like a highbrow,
mm,
really
Hmm.
expensive galleries, and then there are some good ones in Oakland. But I found like I don't know, like the Bay Area art scene, they just want to make shit hard for everyone. Like
yeah.
the art is, I find it hard as a viewer, and it's almost like they're a little bit allergic to anything that's too easy to like or too easy to get into.
Hmm.
But I feel like Orlando maybe doesn't have that problem specifically. I'm sure they have other.
Orlando's problem more is if I painted more like just generic, like if I painted stuff that my mom would want to hang up versus what I would want to
Yeah.
hang up,
You'd
I would do okay.
be a millionaire
Yep.
in
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah, yeah. In Florida, I would be okay because there's a lot of people that like I call it like retiree art.
Right.
Yep.
Where
Boats
it's
over the
It's like
couch.
beaches
Yeah.
and palm
yeah,
trees
yeah,
and shit.
exactly. It's like landscapes. Some stuff in there. There is one gallery around here that had a recent showing of like very surrealist art, but it was also it was a lot of bullshit. I don't remember the name of the gallery itself exactly, but the thing that was bullshit about it was the artist just he just had his whole gallery show was literally like no overpainting on them whatsoever, like just AI art front
Oh.
to back, like his entire. And it wasn't even kind of like okay, like our friend Kirsten Allen, like
Mhm.
she works a lot in AI art, like she's been experimenting with a lot, but she does a lot of like she doesn't just like have the thing raw and presents it as that, like she remixes it or she plays with it. She does
And
a
she's
lot of things
also
on
running her own art through it.
that too. Yeah, that too. That was not at all. If it was that, I would have some respect for it because then it's like, okay, yeah, you're playing with this new
Right.
medium and trying it out and stuff. No, this
So he's
guy
like a
just,
prompt artist.
yeah, he just took it directly. It looks like it was like directly from Midjourney, like without any kind of like
How did they I mean
thing or
it
anything
makes
like
me
that.
that's annoying
You
because
know,
as a gallery owner you should be like
Well,
something's weird
so
here.
this is the thing. Like, so I think part of it is the gallery doesn't care. This gallery at least doesn't care. And then these galleries, at least here in my area, are I think not knowledgeable. Like I have a friend that lives local here that he's a gallery artist. Um he used to be a way long ago. He used to be a comic book artist. Then he did architectural rendering, and now he's a fine artist. Um, and he does like some gallery stuff around here, then elsewhere around the states and everything. But yeah, his litmus for him is like he goes into the galleries around here and he's like, "Do you guys know Frank Frazetta?" And
You'd be
for
shocked at
him,
how
it's
many
like,
people say no.
oh, it's every single one of them.
You're like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, even then he's like, I don't think they're worth it then because even if you don't like his work, it's kind
Correct.
of it's like a Star Wars thing. Like you should know who he is,
I've met
especially
people
if
who
you're,
haven't seen Star Wars. It kills me.
but they know what it is.
Correct.
This is them. This is them saying like, oh, like who's Darth Vader? I don't know who Star Wars is. Is that the one with Kirk? Kind of thing. That's their equivalent of like how they're approaching like Frank Rosetta, or it's that, and I think that comes from like the galleries around here have that snobbery holdover from not liking illustration work, kind of thing, where it's like a lot of like the lowbrow stuff, like those kind of galleries. I don't think have those as many of those hangups because a lot of the artists kind of run around in those circles anyway.
I guess it depends on what Halloran's trying to do. Have you looked in LA? There's a ton of like weird galleries in LA.
I
It is
have not
LA
yet.
though.
That's gonna be. That's where my company is based. Like, I got to go down there
Okay.
occasionally anyway.
Yeah.
So,
LA is it's the only part of California I don't like, but there's a lot of business there to be had.
It doesn't have to be local. Like,
yeah.
What like so you did the visual arts passage. Did you take any? I actually don't know if he was teaching at the time. Like, did you take any classes with Ray Bonilla? Ray Bonilla.
I didn't take classes with him. He was there as like a guest. So
Okay.
we got to draw with him a couple times, and I got some crits from him. And I mean, I know that they've got some amazing instructors that just like reinvent themselves constantly. Like Sterling Hundley is one of them, who I did take classes from, and Ed Kinsella, Del Stefanos. I mean, these people are just like I hesitate to say they've figured it out because we know, you project success, but like they're like, we are artists. We're gonna make art and then we're gonna worry about selling it, but like we're not gonna worry too much about making art sellable. It seems like they have like a core identity as an artist, and then they Sterling Hundley in particular is like, I'm gonna go partner with a university and I'm gonna teach a class and I'm gonna get the class to 3D model this stuff for this other client. Like, he's got it worked out.
He hired out students. Is that what you just said? I'm just kidding.
That's not quite how that worked, but I think he's good at finding synergies.
Yeah,
I took his ideation courses back in the day, and it was very helpful. It's kind of like what you're saying, right? He's not trying to get a lot of us, a lot of artists I know. I've kind of had to break out of that. Had that initial thought of like, I'm making this thing. Where am I going to sell this thing? But now it's like, make the art, man. Just like I broke my own rule, which is make the art, and because you like making art, right? Because you love making art, and everything else will follow, right? Everything will just flow in. You'll figure it out. Like if you make a bunch of these surrealistic, I said that right? Yes, paintings that you want to make, they'll move. It's just a matter of where they're gonna move, right? And you'll figure that out as you. But if you sit around thinking, which gallery do I put it in? What show do I go to? You just got to go to all the things. I do feel like LuxCon would be a perfect start for you. I mean, if you do the showcase, $300 for the table?
Oh, is it only that?
I think it's $300 for the table.
Okay.
And then it's in Reading, Pennsylvania, so you got to figure out room and board and all that stuff.
Oh, I'm from there. It's fine. My parents still live in Melbourne.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect, right? Then you do this. the showcases on Friday and Saturday night, and it's not only is it like you're putting your ideas out there. There's also a bunch of art directors walking around in there, so you never know who you're gonna meet. Who's gonna be like, holy crap, this is different. This is new. That's kind of how I got some of my when I did a LuxCon first time. That's kind of how I got my name out there a little bit, right? So.
Yeah.
Are you still working totally digitally?
I am 100% digital. Melissa's got me convinced to do some traditional stuff for LuxCon next year. So does Andrew. That's why he's nodding his head. So my goal for LuxCon's I'm not doing the main show. I'm doing the showcase again. But next year, I will not be bringing any of my digital stuff to the show. It'll just be a table full of traditional paintings.
So this is going to be the AllenPanakal support room for the next 9 months, because going traditional.
I'm pretty sure Melissa's going to be on my ass.
Are they doing applications for the main show right now? I can't remember.
Main show applications are up now, which is only traditional. So if you did have some traditional stuff, Halloran, you could submit it for the main show. It's free to submit, I think.
I can't remember. I think it is. I have
sworn
to
that
apply.
Somebody on a call earlier told me it was free to submit. If it's It's either free or $30. Oh no, it's $30 because Melissa said she spent $30.
Oh right, yeah, it's like a really nominal
Yeah,
fee.
her and Tawny both signed up for it.
Nice.
You literally just submit some traditional stuff, and if you get in, now you're in the main show deluxe con, which is fucking wild, But
No
the problem with
pressure.
that is,
Yeah.
well, no pressure there, but the problem is you have to be there from Monday to Sunday, something
Right.
like that. Wednesday to Sunday, I think, something like that. It's a longer week.
No, it's a Monday. It's a Monday to.
Oh, is it? Okay, well there you go. So you're there for a longer week.
Yeah.
It's
So-
or it's
But you get the recognition of being in the main show.
it's somewhere
Oh,
around there.
totally.
Yeah. It's like 5 days. Like just block out 5 days that you need to be there. 5 or 6 days.
So, but yeah, my goal is to, right now I work mainly digital because it's just it's the fastest way for me to work.
Yep.
And, I've read some of the rants on Facebook about people who don't like digital artists. I do not give a fuck. So, because you're not paying my bills. So,
No.
I have a job to do. I'm mainly at this point mainly focused on my own series still, and I do have a freelance job I'm doing right now for a gaming house, but I'm pretty much done with freelance after this, unless, like I told Andrew's heard this, unless Magic, D&D, or Star Wars. Like those are the only 3 IPs I really want to work on. Everything else, I'm pretty
Gotta
much
do your own
done.
thing.
I just don't like it always turns out the same. Like I don't like waiting for an art director to get back to me. I don't like somebody telling me this doesn't look right, do this instead, when I'm like, I like the way that looks. Like if it's my own piece, the only person I will take that kind of advice from are people I ask for that advice. Like if I've sent Andrew stuff to look at and say, what do you think about this? And he'll pick it apart. Fine. Scott, I mentor under Scott Fisher. He has been picking apart this Centaur I'm working on. I thought I was done with it last night, and he was like, you're this close, and I want you to do the X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
If that was a job for an art director, I'd be like, I'm fucking done. I'm out, But
Yeah.
I know Scott wants me to be better, so I will finish it. So, and it is all digital. So
Freelance is just.
freelance is just
You,
like
you
don't
have
get
you have
paid enough to
7
put up with
different
it.
you have 7 different Photoshop files that are named final for
You
real
saw my
time.
file yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew's like, I
That-
see the
that's-
name
I-
you gave that file. I'm like, listen, man, I thought I was
I
done. It was
laughed
called
because I
like
have
Final
so many
Final
files
3.
named like that.
Well, the other thing is like, I'm trying to say this without bad mouthing the current project I'm on, but they're busy. So the art director
Yeah.
has fallen into this. I have 2 art directors on this project, and neither of them has responded to me in the last. If in the next 3 hours, it'll be 7 days, and I'm just like, everything's due in a month.
Working with any kind of like AD is a lot of like hurry up and wait.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that's
They
how
want you to be there like yesterday, but they're not going to respond until like 2 weeks later.
Right. So they send me emails saying like, "Hey, we feel like this is not going to be done on time. Are you sure you're still on track? Are we going to be ready to go?" And then I cook ahead, and then I don't hear back. And so that hurry up, and then wait, and you're just like, I don't. It's a level of stress. Here's the thing: if you're being paid well for the job, like better than you expect, you can put up with that to a certain degree, right? You're like, oh, the money's good, and they're nice people, so they're not mean or anything. It's just
Right.
they work for a big company that's put them on several projects, and they're being pulled in like they're literally working on 12 games. I believe it's 12, so they're being pulled in 12 different directions, right?
They're ADing for all of them. Jesus.
I believe they're the ADs
Nuts.
for all 12 games.
Yeah.
So it's like, so it's to a certain degree, I'm like, I understand, but also I don't want to be blamed for this if we're not done on time. Like, because the game I'm working on is I've got all the work on it. It's gonna come out at Gen Con next year. It's supposed to be the title game. My name's attached to it. All my artwork's attached to it. And I was like, I'm doing my best to make sure it's pristine because it's my work.
I feel
I work at a studio, and my team was working with a whole bunch of like a contract studio in China, and we had the same problem because we were getting all these things from that studio, and they needed to be reviewed and they needed to be signed off on, and we were under the gun to deliver. And finally, we instituted this policy of like, hey, our studio, you have 1 business day, and if you don't review this stuff by the end of that, we're going to assume it's fine and we're going to bring it in because we do not have time to wait.
Yeah.
Like we need to just trust our people and assume it's good.
I mean,
And
that's-
ups and downs, but it's velocity.
I'm trying my best to, like, so I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. If I don't hear back, I'm gonna just message and say, hey, it's been 7 days since the last update. Where are we at? Like, if you want this done on time, I need everything handled today. Like, I
Yeah.
need responses on everything today. Mainly also because I'm trying to stay professional. Because maybe I might want to do another game with them or another game in the industry. And like I said, there's no like bad blood between us. It's just this is my
I was
first
gonna
major
say,
project like this.
I feel like this and some of the other projects you've got lined up or coming down the line, it's like less about. I mean, the money is always good.
The money was good, yeah.
The money's always good, but I feel like it's more that you're using it to get your name out there, which is like
Correct.
the same reason that I'm like doing the gallery stuff because like I mean, outside of like the online galleries like EDO and Wow by Wow, I think take 25% cut. Otherwise, like all other galleries, like if they have a physical location, it's 50% cut.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a huge amount. I remember Tron Nguyen
Mhm.
talking about that, and like how she started off as a gallery artist primarily, and yeah, it's like she was doing good in the galleries, but that 50% cut fucking eats away. Because then you figure
Dude,
like, okay, say you sell a painting for $2,000. Okay, well, $1,000 of that is gone immediately.
immediately. That seems like a jacking.
And yeah, that it apparently not used to not be 50%. It's
Sure.
climbed over the years as prices for everything has risen.
Sure.
Not this is not a recent phenomenon. This is like I'm talking like within the past 10, 15 years or so it's risen. Um but yeah, like you figure like okay, $2,000, 1,000 of that is gone immediately. So there's 1,000 left. Whatever your framing supplies are because you have to pay for framing yourself. Take that out of that.
Right.
Right.
Take shipping out of that. Because you
You
have
have
to
to
ship
insure it
it.
too, right?
Well, you could, but
You don't, man. Sometimes Andrew does things where I'm like, man, this guy just lives on the edge. But then he does
I'll
things
say
where I'm
this.
just like, oh, he's a brilliant businessman. It's like, which Andrew am I gonna get
It's
today?
it's it's the former, I think, more often than not. Just living life on the edge. But no,
Yeah.
like you figure like, okay, so shipping is the cost of that. If you do insure it for insuring artwork is like Iris mentioned this recently with her whole
Yeah.
paintings in UPS.
What a clusterfuck that was.
So, but
Did you ever
she
find
raised
them?
the
Yeah,
she
she
did
got him
she
back.
did she did find them, but she raised a point in
Good.
it, which is like UPS does not like to insure artwork because artwork
Yep.
can be $0 or it could be $5 million, and it's a very arbitrary value tacked onto it,
Dude, arguing with
as
Yep.
opposed
UPS
to
to
like
get
a
money
physical
back
good.
is so I had a bunch of on a quick side note, I had a bunch of collectibles. I have a friend who runs an eBay store. I ship collectibles to him. He sells them. UPS is what I use. They told me to insure it, and I insured it for like $500. It's like $100, like $1 for every 100 or something, right? Some
Yeah.
stupid small number. So I was like, okay, $500. The products get to my friend's house. The box looks like it went through hell. The collectibles inside are damaged, broken, and I'm just like, okay. So we contact UPS. They go, we need to get the products back. They go pick it up. They see the proof because we sent them photos. Now they have the physical proof. They will not pay for them because they're like, can you prove the value of each collectibles? So we went on eBay, found the cost of these collectibles, whatever they sold for at the highest cost, and I messaged them back saying it was like $300 that they owed me, and they refused to
Right.
pay it. And then I talked to the guy, the manager of the UPS store here, and he said we can't use the insurance on this because you packaged it up and bought it here. We didn't
That's the
package
other
it up.
thing with like yeah, UPS is
Like they have to
ever
physically
since
package it. Which I
ever
was
I
like,
Did they
mean
refund you the $5 at least?
they didn't even give me back the money. They were like, we can give you back the money for shipping if you want. I'm like, go fuck yourselves. I was so mad
yeah.
because I was just like, you
Yeah.
didn't tell me that you had. So essentially, I'm like, if I bought it in a box and they put it in a bigger box and filled it with peanuts and insured it, everything would have been covered.
I would say like I'm never after shipping my Jekyll and Hyde piece to LuxCon through UPS and having it get damaged in transit, I'm not shipping through
Right.
UPS ever again.
Well, I haven't used these guys since because I'm just like, what's the point of having
Yeah,
insurance
no,
if you're not gonna pay me?
it's a fucking nightmare.
So
USPS is still good for anything. I've never had anything bad with them, and
well,
they're usually
Iris's
pretty
stuff
good
was
about
sitting. Did you see what happened with hers? Hers was sitting in like a stock room in Germany.
right
Apparently
through UPS though.
through
Yeah.
UPS, it was just sitting in their like stock room apparently, and then she got a bunch of artists to cause enough stink online
Mm,
that UPS corporate was like, well, let's go look for this thing, and they found it, and then
yeah.
they just shipped it back to her,
Yeah.
which is
But
like
yeah,
it was a whole thing.
so whatever shipping costs are, which is not just postage, but also whatever
packaging and
packaging,
like yeah,
packaging and stuff. And then you also have to take out your amount for taxes. And then if you want to, but this is like super nitty gritty, and I honestly don't know how the fuck you could possibly keep track of it without being like insanely anal about it. Is like material costs and everything like that. Like how much was the illustration board or paper or canvas or whatever?
That's a lot.
How much paint did you use during it? Like
yeah.
how? Yeah, which is like, how are you gonna? I don't know how the hell, like outside of like whatever substrate you use. I don't know how else to measure the rest of that. Where it's like I used 20 cents of yellow or
Right.
I'm
whatever,
I
thinking
don't
that was more for
know.
the people who like take full tubes of paint, spray them on with palette
Yeah,
knives.
yeah, I
Like if I
guess
were putting an inch of paint on a canvas, I might care more. Might not buy
that's
the
true.
really expensive pigments, but yeah, for what we're
Yeah,
doing,
It's
not
also
worth
how do
it.
you calculate
but yeah,
that,
no, it's
right?
like when you think about it though, like a lot of the gallery stuff. At the end of the day, that like $2,000, you probably get like 500 or less out of that.
Yeah.
And then when you
Yeah.
factor in like what that breaks down to an hourly, you're like, oh Jesus Christ, I could have made more at Starbucks. But the hope though is less about like, oh, that one painting sold than it is to be like you're introducing yourself to new clientele, and then
Right.
the hope is like those clientele eventually just cut out the middleman entirely and say like we
Right,
don't
and
need
come
to talk
directly
to the
to you.
gallery anymore. Yeah, I'm just gonna get an
Yeah.
Well,
original
that's
like
how like
direct.
Donato does it, right? Like he built up his
Right.
client base, and like he had this giant painting of LuxCon. It was the size of the wall behind me, and it was 225,000. I was just like,
Mhm.
I want to know who buys that painting from you here. He was like,
We were talking
fine.
about that because like it's probably priced for a specific person.
It's probably yeah, priced for some specific collectors in this group who have money. And he literally was like, it's not gonna sell here. We both know that, and it's gonna move. It will because it's fucking Donato.
Yeah.
But he's built up his fan base, right? And that's the same thing. Like, I had an AD from Watsy ask me like why I want to do a Magic card once, and I was like, it's literally to build my brand. Like, I would literally
Yeah.
use. I know they're not gonna pay me a lot, and I know I'm gonna have the hardest time trying to get play mats and stuff from Ultra Pro if I want to sell stuff. I'd be better off just doing the card and then using it to say, hey, by the way, you like my art on this card? Here's my whole series. And here's
Mhm.
all this cool shit I make for it, right? It's the same. So this board game I'm working on, I literally would not have signed the deal because it's decent paycheck, but it's also like not worth the headache. When they initially reached out to me and said, what do I get out of this? Like, how can I? You're pulling me for my own project for 8 months, my own personal
Yeah.
project. So they made a sweet deal with me, which I'm not going to talk about live, but Andrew knows about it. But it's a good. I can tell you about it privately, Halloran. But they made a good deal with me, and because of that deal, I was like, and I had my lawyer and I went through it, made sure everything was perfect, and then I signed, right? But up until then, I was like, I'm done with freelance. I'm not doing any more freelance. Um, and every once in a while, I'll do stuff like I'll jump the ship and I'll take like I did this job with, Jabari. It was all faces, which is super challenging for me, and I got it
You
done.
did good on it though. Yeah.
Thank you. But there was a minute where I'm just like, why the fuck did you agree to this? Like this is too stressful. Like it's too much, But for Eli Manaya had a good point where he's like, even if you don't like what you're making here, the one thing that's happening is you're getting better at faces. Even if you're doing it your own way, it doesn't matter. If you're photo referencing or photo bashing or using the lasso tool or whatever it is, like I use a lot of lasso tool. So like getting angles on a landscape, not that big a deal. Getting angles on a face is a big deal. Like you could be like, that guy's nose is broken if you do it wrong. Stupid shit like that.
I was
don't remember.
wondering if you'd ever considered, to get into the traditional space for a LuxCon, like printing out a digital and just painting over it, like paint by number.
I
And
think you've
have tried that.
experimented with that,
Yeah, we've
right?
experimented. Like, here's this piece in this chair behind me. I have tried stuff like that. This one is all acrylic gouache,
okay,
and it's not quite done yet, but it is a
oh,
start.
nice.
So it's basically all experiments. But what I did was I drew out every little shape first, and then I went in there with acrylic
Yep.
gouache and started coloring it. And then
Did you ever have you ever done it where you printed out like a painting that was maybe like 50 to 60% of the way done and then tried finishing it traditionally?
And then
That's the Thomas Kincaid move. Like print it on a canvas, have
Yeah,
your
man.
apprentices add little dots of light. Nice.
Stuff's just falling out everywhere. So this is a canvas piece, and then I started this one too, but I don't know. Like there's a point where I'm just like, if it's not jiving with me, I'm just like, we'll see. Not saying I'm quitting on it. It's just I have to really like get back into the flow. What is this crap? But I was talking to there's an artist named Dan Cohen. You should look him up. He's amazing. Excuse me. I was talking to him at LuxCon. He was in the main show, and he was telling me to paint on top. I have the metal pieces. He's like, you should just paint on top of this metal with either oils or like the acrylic gouache. But he said oils, and that metal will come through eventually.
It wouldn't be dissimilar from like Drew Baker painting on the copper, or like Scott Fisher or Howard Lyon with like the copper aluminum panels.
So I thought, all right, I will experiment with that later, because it's just hard to get the color. So that's where I'm like, for traditionals, I was like, yeah, why not? Scott's always like, the work's already done. You did the work. All you have to do is paint on top of it. I'm like, it's easy for Scott Fisher to say. For me, I'm like, it just doesn't look right. Like I can't get the same glow because it's like layer effects, right? I can't get the same like pop because it's digital, and
right.
So it's like, how do you like, what do you do? You got to figure out the workaround, basically.
I was gonna say, if you wanted to go that route where you are painting on top of like a metal print, you probably would be better suited with oil than you would like a acrylic or a gouache.
Yeah,
because those are
work.
Well, yeah, acrylic doesn't get
Not
as dark. It doesn't. It can't, but you have to use like different additives and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And it'll peel off.
Yeah, it will. It can delaminate. Yeah, that's the other thing is
on metal. Yeah.
But the oil, like oil, there.
You have
to have to sand it down or something.
I think you'd have to give it like a slight sanding or something like that on the surface just to give it a little bit of tooth. Or like do like a clear gesso or something. I'm not really sure. You'd have to experiment. But like the oil though, by its nature is like dark, more rich, like more saturated than acrylic and gouache. Like gouache, because of the matting qualities, it doesn't look as rich. It's very, very like like a black on a gouache is never going to look as deep and as saturated as a black in oil. And same thing with acrylic. Like acrylic is never going to look as deep and rich as oil unless you like really go in with like gloss gels and gloss varnishes after the fact to do that.
I mean, that's my goal, is to finish this project for the gaming house and then spend the rest of my time experimenting over the winter. And then we'll see.
I think there's also there's a real trick with traditional media where you work in saturation contrast so much more than you do with digital. Like you desaturate everything that doesn't matter so that stuff does pop, but you got to choose one or two colors.
Right.
And it's just a different way of thinking about color and contrast. And you can do some cool stuff with it, but yeah, like there's a learning curve.
I'm sure there's a learning curve. It's just it just comes down to for a couple months in the summer is
Yeah.
when I started working on these traditionals. We were all on calls working, but I had a lot of extra time on my hands. It was actually before the baby was born, the second kid, and then once she was born, I'm just like, well, there goes all that time. And I need to focus on work.
Yeah.
That's just me being, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsible. That's the word. I was gonna say professional, but responsible is the right word.
Yeah.
We're a little over time, so I was thinking we can go into the last segment of our show.
Oh, sure.
Halloran, since you reminded us about it, if you want to go first.
Is this the interesting stuff thing?
That also tells me you watch the show, which is cool. Because I was just like,
Obviously, I'm gonna prep. Like, I'm not gonna just show up here and say, "Hey guys, what do we do?"
Hey man, I've had somebody come on the show who was like, "I didn't realize this was a video call. I don't want to be on video." And you're like, "Cool, we're live." Like,
Hey.
I'm like, let me just turn your video off.
Yeah. It was fortuitous. The latest episode of the 40 Times just arrived today. This was my pandemic present to me.
What is the 40 Times?
Yeah, what is that?
Oh my god! So, in the late 19th century in England, there was this guy Charles Forte, Forte, and he was just interested in the supernatural and sightings and happenings and things like that. But he was also really, really skeptical, and he had no patience for scam artists and people who were like, "Well, I saw a light, and it's probably my Aunt Mary," because stuff. So he would collect all these reports of things happening and strange stuff and pencils falling off tables and stuff, and then he'd investigate and he'd discount 99% of them. But this magazine is like a continuation of that, and so it helps.
It's like a skeptics magazine.
It's like stories from around the world.
It's stories from around the world. Like this one has.
Kind of want to read that.
Roadkill Gourmet. It has some stuff from East Africa and South America. There's always a conspiracy item, and it's not, here's the conspiracy, this is what's going on with those fucking weirdos over in the conspiracy sphere. This is like the conspiracy theory of the day, and we're all very skeptical. So it's less ghost stories and more very kind, gentle anthropology about the people who believe in ghosts. And also some good headlines. So they collect things like, is it okay to let your snake sunbathe in the park?
This sounds like an Onion article.
Yeah, well, some of this is headlines. They're they don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster, but they are very happy to accept that other people do and document those other people's explorations and quests and stuff.
Come on, man, it exists. Enough people have seen it.
Yeah. There's
somebody just report seeing Bigfoot like 2 weeks ago. There's a new photo.
Did they really?
I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's a new photo of Bigfoot. I'm not even making that shit up. It looks kind of like somebody is. I don't know, man. They don't look that fast. They can't just be lounging in a forest somewhere.
There was a documentary about some investigative journalist who was hearing these reports of Bigfoot up in Northern California.
I watched that documentary. That documentary.
The one about the pot farm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he get killed? What happened?
No, the investigative reporter didn't, but he was hearing reports about the illegal pot farmers, the migrant workers on it being disappeared in the middle of the night. And the local legends was like, oh, it's a Sasquatch or it's a Bigfoot or whatever. It's like, no, it's likely just people liking that you're snooping and making sure you don't snoop again.
Right.
So there was a whole pot industry in Humboldt County is old and highly competitive. And the end result, I mean, this guy started out chasing Bigfoot rumors and stumbled into the craziest cutthroat, dirty hippie drug cartel in middle of
Oh,
It
nowhere
was
California.
it was the kind of hippies that were not like cool hippies. They're the kind of hippies that are like, oh no,
Hells Angels hippies,
we'll make
you know.
fertilizer bombs.
Yeah.
God, that sounds kind of cool to read about.
It's it's on Hulu, I believe, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't watched a
I
documentary
think
on
it's
Hulu in
just
a long
called I
time.
think it's just called Finding Sasquatch or something like
Write
that.
that down.
That sounds right.
If you're gonna watch a documentary on Hulu, you should watch Batman and Bill Finger. It's worth watching.
I don't
Oh,
know that one.
is that
Do you
on
know who
Hulu
Bill
now?
Finger is?
No.
He's the dude who actually created Batman. And Bob
So
Kane
like
is the guy who basically Thomas Edison his ass and stole his ideas.
yeah, Bob Kane said, "What if we do a guy that's a Batman?" And
Right.
that was
So
like Bob Kane's like
that's all he
contribution. And
had. And then
Bill Finger figured out like the costume, the
dude,
Batmobile, Alfred,
all the
Joker.
villains, the costume, the Robin, everything. Bill, if you look at Bob Kane's drawing of Batman, it's like it never would have gotten approved. But the whole documentary is about how he convinces Bob Kane. Literally tells Bill Finger, "I know the people in the higher ups. I'll go talk to them about this." And he went and talked to him and just stole the whole idea.
Yeah.
And now, when you watch DC movies, I've done a whole episode on this because it really pissed me off when I read about it. But now, when you watch the movies like Justice League or whatever the latest DC movies, if Batman's in it, it says Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger, because
hmm
Bob Kane did not give credit to this man until like till he was like in his deathbed,
Did
and he still didn't do it.
I was gonna say, did Bill Finger's estate fight for that, or was that
Correct. So
because
there was
that
the
can't
guy
be
in the
like a goodwill
documentary.
thing,
Well, if you watch the documentary, the guy in the documentary is a huge Batman fan, and he just goes
right?
on this like epic journey to figure out, because the only last living member of Bill Finger's family really is his goddaughter, I believe, or his great. It's either his niece or his goddaughter, I forget, but she basically ends up taking up the mantle with this guy. And now, anytime a Batman movie comes out or a Batman property makes money, the money that would go to Bill Finger, because he's dead, goes to this woman who, super loved her uncle, I guess. But it's a whole thing, man. And you read it and you're just like, it's because the comic industry back then was, it's the same thing with like Stan Lee. And Stan Lee wasn't a bad person, but he didn't create all those characters by himself, right? There was another guy involved, but you never hear about the
Yeah.
other guy. You only hear about Stan Lee. It's like, there are two people involved in this process. Where's the second guy? Why isn't he sitting next to him signing? Why isn't he getting cameos in these Marvel? I mean, he might be dead, but why wasn't he getting, whatever. But back to the 14 times. I need to figure out where to find this magazine because I want to read about it.
You can subscribe online. You can get a digital version. I just kind of
I
like
probably will
the
get a
excuse to
digital
get away
version.
from my screen.
I read everything on my
I
iPad.
just want,
So
I had to stop, man.
I don't
It's
have
like,
space for things, man. That's the problem. Like, I'm running out of. You guys don't see the books that are stacked up here. You can see the stack. That stack is still there.
Oh yeah.
these make good stocking stuffers. Like once you've gone through them, you can like give
That's
you
not a bad idea. Just
issues.
give them away.
Yeah, like my sister really loves it. So sometimes
Anybody
like,
wants
I'll
some
take a
Imagine
couple.
FX magazines? Because I'll make stocking stuffers out of those. I've got a box. Full
I
of
will
them.
trade you some stuff. Like I have back issues of this. We can do a little exchange.
Oh yeah, I'll send you some. I was just literally sitting in the
There you
garage.
go.
I'm just like, I've moved to a digital format of that after we, in the condo after the first kid was born. I was running out of space. I moved digital, and then here it's just to save space. All right, well, I didn't have anything crazy to talk about other than an RPG. There's a company called Free League. You'll see them at Gen Con, Origins, and big shows, but they're the ones that have the rights to make the Lord of the Rings RPG.
Oh.
And initially I wasn't gonna buy this because in my head I was like, so the thing is, Free League also makes their own rule sets, so you're not playing. There is a 5e version of this if you play D&D and you like 5e, and you're like, that's the version I want to play.
Does it use like a modified Pathfinder or whatever?
It's using D&D 5e rules. This is not the one. This is their own rules. They create their own rule set for this. So it's whatever Free League has. The other thing I want to talk about is another book by the same company called Vassian. If you pick up any book from them first, pick up Vassian. It's basically a Nordic horror. Andrew, you would love this. And again, it's not that hard to play. It's kind of like a Lovecraftian. It's Nordic horror, so it's got a Lovecraftian feel to it. It's very easy to pick up. Everything you need is right here in this one book. And Free League literally makes their own rule sets. So this one's got a different set of rules than this one does. But they made a 5e version of this because it's Lord of the Rings and people wanted to play it. Now, I knew initially, again, I said, I was saying I didn't buy this because I was like, I don't really want to play a Lord of the Rings thing, but I'm curious. So, I bought it because there's like world building inside of it. Like, it's done really well. All their design layouts are awesome. But the world building inside of it is fucking amazing. So, like, there's a whole section here on shadow creatures, whole thing on trolls.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's like $50, I think. Unless you know people, then you can get a deal. But freely, So, I would suggest picking it up at a show locally because it's kind of nice to pick it up and look through it.
It looks like a beautiful book. I mean,
dude, look at Vastian. They do it. I mean, yeah. First thing that got me was their designs. Like look at
those interior illustrations are like.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right? No, so like if you look at the new look at this thing. You see that? Look at that. And it's got like cool little writing as if they're writing journal entries in here, on top of
that's a labor of love. Wow.
Dude. I mean this book at Gen Con won the what do they call it? The Ennie, I think 2 years in a row, maybe. Not written on here anywhere. But the new crit roll game, what's it called? Starts with a C, but the name is failing me. Kind of reminds me of this. Like they did variants off of it. I don't want to call them out on it like that, but it has that vibe. So, but if you like Lovecraft games and you want that Lovecraftian vibe, this is what it is. But it's Nordic horror, and Nordic horror is fucking scary.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
So that's what I got. I'll have more Free League stuff to show next time, but those two are definitely my keys. They also have the rights to do the Alien game, Alien art.
Oh, okay.
Which, hang on a second. I don't think I have the Alien one, but okay, I'll show you one more book by them. It's called Coriolis. This is a sci-fi based game that they make. Again, its own set of rules. This thing I bought because it's just fucking beautiful. Like it's all like it's right down Ancient Ones. Like it's got like science fiction, and these are all your character classes. But then it's got spaceships, and it's got a lot of rules though, so it takes forever. Look at this fucking class sheet.
Oh, wow.
It takes forever to play. Yeah, so like it's heavy on sci-fi. Not the game I'd start with though. Bastion is the game I would start with. That's it.
We should just start like a library with all our art and gaming books.
That's
like you can't take them out, but you can just come in. They're big chairs,
take a look.
Coffee. You can just like look through Spectrum for a while.
That's not a bad idea. Be like, we'll take tips. Someone's got to fund these books,
right? I was going to talk about a show, but actually I have like what my wife got me for my birthday recently, which is
that thing is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know where the hell she found it, but it's awesome.
So does it? It does.
Yeah, that's the first thing I asked him when he showed us.
It even like twists up and down with the spring-loaded thing. Which so my wife and I were joking about this. For the longest time, both of us thought that the squeal that you hear when that twists and turns, we thought that was supposed to be the device kind of thing. It's not. It's just Wayne Knight's like crazy laughter.
Oh,
in that
that's
scene.
Right. Yeah. He's so excited about it, right?
He's so excited and he squeals, but like he squeals at the same time that the thing turns. So
right.
Like when we were younger, we both thought like, oh, that's what that thing is supposed to sound like. Because it's like the gas or something like hissing out. It's like, no, it's just Wayne Knight and his crazy like squeal dolphin laugh he has.
It's just
but it's really awesome. I've been really enjoying it.
You gotta fill that.
What are you gonna keep in it?
I have no idea yet. It's just been sitting on my desk and like floating around my studio right now because I don't have like a permanent location for it yet. We don't really have like we have like one curio cabinet, but that thing is filled up with dead things like skulls and
I mean, if a random Barbasol can was just sitting in there,
It would be a little out of place, kind of deal.
Sure. Would it?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. You put it next to like an alligator skull or something, just as like a hint, a little
Yeah.
nod.
I like playing with it a lot, so it's yet to find a way a
You know what?
permanent place on a shelf because I like.
You should fill the little tubes with like pixie sticks or
Well,
something.
okay, so
Just pop one open once in a while.
that's one of the funny things is about it. For one thing, it came with labels. I have to put the labels on the thing so they actually have labels.
Oh, okay.
But then, you apparently cannot ship these with fluid.
Sure.
They have to be shipped without fluid. I guess it's like a
because it could be booze.
It's like a shipping regulation of some kind.
Right.
Yeah, like it has to be unfilled. So I have to also fill those at some point with something. I was thinking at first getting some clear resin and then tinting it, and then just like do a syringe into each of them. That way it'll be like a permanent
solidify in there.
Thing.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
I would test that in a different tube first.
That's the thing. Yeah, I want to test that out first to see how much of a pain in the ass that might be, or if it affects it inversely. One thing I've heard some people do with their recreations, or if they get like a prop like that, because even if you buy like this is actually from a person on Etsy that made this.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's clever.
And because like for the longest time there was an official one a few years back, but that one has long since been out of stock and not made anymore. There's a recent prop maker, Paragon FX, I think their name is. They haven't started shipping these, but this is one of the things they have as like, oh, we're doing this thing. And we looked like I showed my wife that, and like we looked at like the one that she got me, and then we looked at things like honestly, it's exactly the same. I don't really fucking care about like it being authentic. Can't even tell. Or
like you post that photo in the group, and the first thing in my head was I'm like, that's from Jurassic Park.
I know. It looks exactly like it to me. So I'm kind of like I don't really need it to be official or anything. I don't need like a certificate or anything like that because it's not like the prop itself from the movie. I just need it to look like it and and work the way I expect it to. It
was great.
So,
but yeah,
even numbers matching, like
exactly. Even
no one's gonna look at it and be like, "This is not a Velociraptor."
No. But even like the official
they are,
ones,
but you'll kick them out of your house.
Yeah,
the
official ones too. They also cannot ship things with fluid in it. It also has to be unfilled. So yeah, the interesting fact I found out about that. But yeah, that's the next thing I need to figure out with this is what do I want to fill it with. I've seen some people recommend Dawn dish soap as a thing that they fill it with.
Evaporate after a while.
It might not because it's a gasket seal on it, on the tops of these. So it might create enough of a seal that it wouldn't. But I also think that's like why they recommend Dawn dish soap because it's soap kind of thing, so it won't really. It's not going to evaporate the same way
like Dawn that they sell. Yeah.
Yeah, and there could be a good chance that like that's exactly what they used for in the movies, just something like that. Because it's not like
but it didn't have to be archival for the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to exist enough for the shoot, and then after that, they don't care what happens to it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's lost in some mud.
So, but yeah, no. My wife got me that. I am exceedingly happy because that's like one of those like out of all the movie props in the world, that's the one that I've always really, really wanted.
The only prop I still own is that right there, that batarang. It's from the actual first movie.
You seem like someone that would like Deckard's gun from Blade Runner.
I would love what is it called? A PK-90?
Yeah.
I would love one of those. It's just I've never seen a replica where I'm just like, that's the one I'm gonna buy. But I do think once I get this printer's out of the box, I just gotta set it up already. I would definitely like to build Deckard's gun. I want to build a Samaritan. And I don't know what else, but yeah, Deckard's gun would be awesome.
That's an interesting one because I'm sure you can get STL files for it, but like
it's like
okay, how screen accurate do you want to be? Because then it's like if you want to be like really screen accurate, the handle itself, it's two resin
Yes.
things on either side of the gun stock itself. But like those you have to get sourced because the resin printer is not going to really do it right because it's
Right.
this weird
It's
tiger's
gotta be like
eye
this weird clear.
translucent
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I saw
But
one at
there's
Dragon Con
people that
earlier.
make those and sell those.
There was a guy selling tons of weapons at Dragon Con, except, he wanted like $100 for it. I'm just like, I don't want to spend that much. Like,
Yeah.
I understand the value in the thing. He did the work, it was painted. I didn't, But also, I'm like, do I really need a replica for $100?
Hmm.
I don't think I have any other replicas. I do have
Do you have a lightsaber?
I got tons of lightsabers. Like, I do have this cool lightsaber though. It's from this guy traded me for a playmat at Origins. It's from it's dead right now, but it's like solid.
Oh wow.
And then you can take it apart and there's a giant
Is it
battery.
like I guess it's like machined aluminum
Yeah,
and stuff?
it's heavy. Like you can literally like if somebody broke into my house, I hit you with this, I'd probably kill you. It's solid. And
It
it's got
sounds like a mag light, like
yeah,
flashlight.
it feels like a mag light. It definitely lights up like a mag light if you turn this on. This one actually talks and makes noise, but the
Okay.
battery's dead because my kid was playing with it. But I do have like a kryptonite rock. I do have a because my friend works for he works in the props department. He worked for the props department for that movie, and he gave me a batarang from it. That's so
Oh,
there's
nice.
I'm not gonna pull it off the wall, but there's two batarangs they made for the first movie. Come on, hand. There you go. The first movie where he's sharpening the batarangs. There's
I
two
was gonna say,
Mhm.
batarangs.
did they
That
make
one's
like a hero version and then like a stunt version?
yeah. So that one's like a thick. That one's it's about half an inch thick because that's what he's using when he's sharpening it. So you get the sparks, and then
Mm.
the version you see thrown against the wall is a thin version, which is more like a ninja star. So
Oh, okay.
and I had a few of those. I gave a couple of them away, which I really wish I hadn't, but I did. So, but
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I
cool.
collect props when I can find them, but they're far and
Yeah.
few these days. So, I kind of
Yeah.
there was a time I wanted to be an extra, so I had all the connections there, but I kind of grew out of that.
All right.
Why is the bottom of this cup?
Well, Halloran, thank you so much for being on. Where can we find you? I know you said your website is getting launched on Black Friday.
Yes. So it is happylittle-nightmares.art.
Okay.
And between when we film this and when it airs, I will also like get some social media together.
There you go.
I'm Halloran Parry on Instagram. I think I have a Blue Sky account somewhere that I don't do anything with. I'm a little like new
You'll catch
to
up.
promoting myself on social. So
It's
um,
honestly, it's a hard slog to promote on social.
yeah,
It seems
and
like
that's
right now.
I'm trying to convince myself it's worth it. John Shindaheady, who's an old art director at Wizards, just
Mhm.
started like he's got a lot of experience in content marketing, and he just started a newsletter. So I'm going through all that and trying to figure out, what my strategy is going to be.
Oh, I should.
Um,
I didn't know he had a newsletter. I should subscribe to that because
I
I used
should
to
too.
read his
yeah,
like blog like religiously ages ago.
he just I can send you guys the link afterwards. Yeah, he just
Yeah.
published some. It's like here's my new like little writing on top of funnel marketing for small business, and it's pages and pages of really good info.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, I
That's
will
cool.
send you guys a link.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for having me on. This is
Oh
really
Yeah,
no!
fun.
yeah.
Thanks for reaching out. We usually have a list of guests, but then it's like people get busy, so we're like, who are we gonna get on this week?
Yeah, and the holiday season is just gonna make
It
that
makes it
worse.
that harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can
Alan,
talk
where?
again in like. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we could talk again like soon too. Like I would love to follow
I
up
would
and
like to
just
follow up with you, yeah, and see how you're doing
yeah.
with this stuff. Curious.
We can talk about the ones of dollars that are going to come rolling in from this. It's going to be great.
There's dozens of dollars.
Just
Yeah.
do your thing, man. It'll fall.
um,
It'll.
Alan,
Yeah.
where can we find you?
All my stuff is under AllenPanakal art on socials except TikTok. Um, someone's still squatting on that. Ancientones.net, or you type in AllenPanakal.com. It'll redirect you to ancient ones. I am on Blue Sky and their AllenPanakal art as well now. I'm not using it as often as I should. I'll hopefully get back into that. Socials is just meh.
Yeah, social media is
I tell people
rough.
just go to my website, sign up for the newsletter. That's where like I put the bulk of my information on there.
I did have a smack of reality as I'm about to like promote my own newsletter. But I uh I had one of my friends tell me like they're like, I don't sign up for newsletters anymore because I just fucking get swamped in my inbox with them, so I don't want to sign up for a new one. I'm like,
I've had
fair.
people
I
hesitate at
understand
shows,
that.
and I'm like, I only send out a message once a month, and they're just like,
Yeah,
like, why should I trust you? Because why should you trust me? I don't know.
that's true.
My sister was talking about this. She's like, how are you going to get people to come back? Have you considered a webcomic? Like, oh God. But I
Is
mean,
the webcomic how you gonna get people to come back? I don't see how that's
well, if it gets updated, right? Like if you
sure.
have to see it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, I don't want to draw a webcomic,
Right.
but my sister's like, well, let me write it and you can
You
draw it.
should do
So
like
we're negotiating.
you should do like one panel like the Far Side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was something I mused on one of the chats or whatever that they were part of, where I was considering possibly taking some of my Patreon posts and just porting them over to a blog on my website to just drive some more
Yep.
traffic and get something more consistent on there. It's still not anything I thought too much about. It's just like an idea I've had in my head where it's like, maybe I could do this or whatever. So now is a good time for me to promote. Like, I'm on asidesart.com. You can sign up for the newsletter or Patreon there. I'm
There you
also A-Sides Art on pretty much anywhere except Twitter. I deleted off there. I'm not going back. Screw that
I
place.
barely
So
use
it's
Twitter.
Instagram, Blue Sky. That's it. I'm on Mastodon, but I haven't really posted there in a long
I
while.
keep forgetting Mastodon exists.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Instagram seems to be doing okay for me lately when I post images, but it's not like it's helping with sales. It's just like people now see the
Yeah.
artwork. So all right. I don't know who our next guest is, honestly, because I sent out a couple emails.
It is a wild card.
It's always a wild card during the holiday seasons.
Yeah.
But if anyone who stayed with us this long, I will say that we've come up with some ideas for the new year to kind of be a little more cohesive with our structure here, so we'll be more on point.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that karate chop means. All right, I'm gonna take us offline. Give me a second.